Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. It is just us today, so you get to put up with all of our BS, which is super great. And thank you to Keefe from Ghost Cult Magazine for hosting our shenanigans like he always does. Super awesome. And also, we want to quickly shout out Loper42 or Sean Truly from Gimme Metal for his awesome donation to Akiavel during their Gimme Metal special. So now that we've gotten all of the formalities out of the way, today we are going to be covering some networking topics with you guys, how to network without being a manipulative douche, and great ways to. Curtis is laughing at me.
We started with the devolve. Okay.
We've already started devolving into using the word douche.
Yeah, this is amazing. So, Corey, just to start off, can you kind of define for people what, in your opinion, networking means?
Networking to me is building professional relationships that you can both benefit from rather than it being one-sided. And I mean, obviously, in certain relationships, there's going to be a power imbalance because you may network with somebody who's been in the business for 15, 20 years when you've been in the business for 4 months. Me right here. Where you can't really offer them a whole lot for their help, but you can still always be appreciative and be there whenever they do need something. But it's that kind of a relationship where there's give on both sides and take on both sides. It's not all one side taking from the other.
Okay, I agree with that. So now, how would you define an improper balance then? Now that you've defined the proper balance, I want to hear your thoughts.
When you go into a relationship solely with what can I get out of this, it's an improper balance, regardless of who the other person is, how long they've been in the industry. It doesn't really matter. If the only goal of that relationship is for you to get something out of it, it's an improper balance. Okay,
so now riddle me this, Batman. Let's before we get into anything too heavy with it. So if you are trying to connect with someone, a lot of times there is something that you want out of it. Just let's face it, that's the truth. So what would be a good way, in your opinion, to network with someone without being manipulative? Like, just give me a straight up example of it.
By showing what you can also offer that person. Like, I'll be real. I freaking needed help with PR when I first started talking to you. I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't really my intention to get you to take me on as a business partner or anything that happened since then. I really just kind of wanted some pointers on how to build a contact list, and it just snowballed for, to put it politely or mildly.
A little bit.
Just a little bit of snowballing. But I also illustrated to you the skills that I have that you might not have. Like, I know how to build websites. A lot of your clients probably needed websites. I know how to do graphic design. A lot of your clients probably need graphic design. So there's ways that you could have offered value add to your clients without ever bringing me on. And maybe you would have found it, the goodness of your heart to tell me how to find some contacts.
Now, I do want to point out for everybody listening, I rarely ask Corey for anything.
He very, very rarely asks me for anything that's not something that like a mutually worked contract or a client that's both of ours. Anything outside of that, it's very rare for him to ask me for anything.
I think I've asked her for maybe 3 premieres total in the whole time I've known her, since February or something like that.
Yeah, total. And those dried up the moment we started working together. Just, ethically speaking, I, can't really do premieres on stuff that I'm working or that closely affiliated with.
I just wanted to put that out there in case anybody's listening to this. There is no benefit to Curtis for metal injection at all with working with Corey. I want to point that out. So
there's benefit to your clients and benefit to your business. So I mean, there's other ways that you have benefited from the relationship. I assume. I could be wrong.
I'm just working with you because I hate you. Obviously, that's just.
You're just doing it because you're bored.
I'm bored. I feel sorry for you. That's totally the entirety of the thing, right?
Exactly.
But in all seriousness, just to point that out, I do not get special favoritism, and there has been almost nothing I have asked her for since she started working with me in that regard.
All the premieres that I've done for you one of them you didn't even ask me for. I just
Yep.
did it because I like the song. That was the first one.
Yep.
And the other ones all came out like before we started working together.
Yep. Pretty much. Pretty much.
I honestly think there's only two. There might be three, but I think there's only two.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, and one of them you didn't ask me to do.
Yep. I think you're right. I think you might be right. I think you might be right. But anyways, back to the main subject. So, okay. So that is a really good example of networking. So now, what would be another example of a wrong way to network that you've
The ass kiss method.
The what?
The ass kiss method.
Oh, ass. I thought you said the ass kiss method. And I was like,
the brown noser method of networking, where you go in to somebody who's been in the industry forever and you're buttering them up, you're kissing their ass, you're you're sucking up basically just to get whatever it is that you want out of them.
Okay. How would
that's one of those one-sided relationships.
But give me an example of how that would work. Like, let's say someone used the ass kiss method on Corey Westbrook. What would it be an example of someone using that on you? Oh,
bands do that all the time. They try to flatter their way into a premiere when their songs aren't up to par, their videos aren't up to par. They, God, they always go for the looks too. Like, dude, no, I realize that at 4:00 in the morning when I wake up, I look like a gremlin. Okay. I'm not some stunning creature that is some like stunning ethereal elf traipsing through the woods or what. Like, it doesn't work on me. And it's just, or the blatantly obvious, I like what you wrote on, and then they just copy and paste the article title.
Yep.
And it's like, maybe you'd be interested in covering my band, and the two things are completely unrelated.
Yep. Okay, so the ass kiss method. So I agree with this. So now, let me just riddle you this again, Batman. Let me ask you this. There is a fine line between ass kissing and compliment.
Yes, there is a genuine way. Like, if somebody were to compliment one of my articles
about you all the time, and I don't think I'm kissing your ass.
No. There's a genuine way to do it, and there's a way that's very blatantly ingenuine. And honestly, I think most people can realize what that is.
Fair.
Yeah, like I said, with just the copy and pasted article of the title that's in no way related to what I'm saying or what the band is asking, or what, like, unrelated genres or whatever. And like, maybe you'd like to cover my band because you covered this band, and the two things are completely unrelated. You can totally tell that that's fake. Totally. And whatnot.
And if they're complimenting, you said.
Yeah, and if they're complimenting me on my looks, that's so fake.
It'd be funny. Someone hears this and they're like, okay, they take this to the extreme now, and they're like, okay, we know you don't like to be complimented on your looks. They'll be like, you look like a gremlin. Can you see my band?
I would honestly laugh my ass off if somebody did that, and I would probably listen to their music just because why not?
You're gonna get the gremlin. Now, Corey, we realize you look like a gremlin. We're not gonna say anything nice about you. Here's my band.
You're fucking hideous. Will you cover my band?
please cover us. We feel sorry for you, so we're gonna ask you to do this for us. That would be amazing. Yeah. Okay, in all seriousness though, so don't do looks, don't do bad flattery. I think one of the reasons why that comes, have you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People by chance?
I have actually only read like the synopsis on Wikipedia, but I know who Machiavelli is.
Okay.
And so same bullshit.
It is. Well, I think one of the reasons why I'm just going to bring this up quickly is because I think one of the reasons why people do the compliment is because it talks about in that book that people love to be complimented. So I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, but I'm saying I don't know about you. But if someone comes up to me with a compliment that I don't know, I get suspicious right off the bat.
Oh, hands down. Super sketch.
Yeah.
Like, you complimenting me, you actually have seen my work and you know my work is good, so you can compliment my work because you're actually familiar with me. Somebody straight out of the gate who's just going over the top with the flattery is so creepy.
It is. So, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea necessarily to compliment someone if you sincerely believe it. But I think if you're just kind of looking for a reason to compliment someone, then that's how you come across as being sketchy and insincere. So
Mhm.
where am I going with this here? So I guess I want to ask you, so how do you personally detect the bullshit from the sincere compliment from someone that's new to you? Because there are sometimes people will give a genuine compliment. Like I've received compliments about you that were genuine and I've shown them to you.
It's honestly a lot of my gut. Like I
Okay.
just go with my gut on a lot of things.
Fair.
I mean, your intuition is usually really good. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most people have
Yep.
good intuition. They
Yep.
ignore it. Stop
Yep.
ignoring it. That would be my biggest thing. Like if anybody takes anything from this podcast, is stop ignoring your intuition, because it is going to point out the sketchy people. Listen to your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And I mean, there's always all sorts of physical cues too.
Well, a lot of
Like not meeting your eyes, that's a
yeah,
physical cue.
sure.
Just read their body language. Are they, there's like it's a subtle aggressive body language from somebody that wants something from you.
Yep.
And that really is if you're face to face.
Yep.
But like over the internet, listen to your gut. And if something seems off, check references.
I agree 100%. Now, let me ask this, because this is still on networking. We're gonna go a little bit further ahead, but this is just like the compliment part. So you said listen to your gut, and if something seems off, it's off. Now, I know I myself, I agree with this 100%. But how do you personally tell if it's like a sense of humor thing and it's coming across the wrong way, or if it's like a genuine weird thing? Just out of curiosity.
For sense of humor and it's not like resonating, you can
Yeah.
always just ask if the person's joking. Like
Fair.
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I
Fair.
did that yesterday with somebody who I know pretty well. Like, are you being serious right now or are you joking?
Yeah.
Because on the internet, it's not always clear.
Yeah.
But again, I think people's alarms start going off even when it's an internet conversation, and you
Yeah.
can tell when something is sketch.
I agree most of the time. I mean, like some of the stuff you and I say to each other, anybody else would think was completely insane. But
We know each other's personalities.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Okay, so further on, so let's go a little bit further on networking here. So okay, so you want to get in touch with someone,
Mhm.
and let's say it's a writer. We're gonna start simple here with a writer. So
Mhm.
you want to get in touch with a writer. How would you suggest people go about networking with that writer if they don't know them?
Honestly,
Okay.
just being real with
Yeah.
that person. Like if somebody wants me to cover their band, don't try to like lead in with a whole bunch of BS about whatever. Just get to the point and tell me what you want. I know why you're talking to me.
Okay.
And it's like the same with Greg. We all know why you're talking to us. We know
But if
you
I,
don't want to be, you don't want to be our friend.
yeah,
You don't want to get to know us. We know. So just be real. So if somebody's honest and upfront, like, hey, I just really want you to cover my band, I will give them more attention than somebody who's, with the false flattery and the buddy attitude. Just be
yeah,
honest about it.
yeah,
If you do genuinely think somebody's cool and you want to follow them and you want to, I don't know, build some sort of a relationship with them, like say it's a PR who wants to build an existing contact or an ongoing contact. There we go. Not existing, ongoing contact. Then just interact with that person on a human level, not anything like I tweet a lot of random shit
you do.
that I think is funny. And if
Yeah,
somebody else thinks is funny, go drop a laughing emoji on it or something. Or, like one of my memes, like just interact with them on a human level that is in no way business related if you want to actually build a relationship with that person.
Now, I want to point out, you don't actually have to, like, if you're trying to network with someone, you actually don't have to build a relationship with them. You actually don't.
No, that's if you want to. If
But I
you
want
don't
to know.
want to, just be honest with us what
Yep.
you want.
Yep. Yeah, like I have a lot of people that I contact on a regular basis for PR. For example, I have no intention of building up a friendship with them or doing anything like that. I have zero.
Yeah. And you're 100% upfront with what you want, right?
Yeah, I say, I want
Exactly.
this. Can you do the stream? I don't go, hey, how's your wife? How's your kids? You look great today.
Yeah, all that stuff. That's why I said if you want to build up some kind of a relationship with this person, cool, go for it. If you don't, just be honest. Just
I
be
think-
honest what you want and why you're messaging them.
I think this is a key point. This is a very key point that we just brought up. You don't have to be friends with everyone.
You don't.
You don't. Sometimes you just have to have a business relationship
No.
with them.
There is a PR that I frequently do. I do premieres for him.
Mhm.
We have absolutely no friendship whatsoever, and I respect the guy. I mean, I like his press releases. They're always very nicely put together.
Mhm.
And I like his bands. I know he's always going to be sending me something quality. So, I mean, when he comes to me like, hey, I need a premiere, and if I can fit it in the schedule, I will. And there's no friendship there. It's just us working together.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
perfectly fine. And he's never once bullshitted me on what he wants or tried to be super buddy or anything like that. Obviously, he wished me well when the tree fell on my house. But other than that, it's not like, hey, how's your cat or anything weird like that.
Out of curiosity, before we go on, how many people use the tree fell on your house? Can I get a premiere on you? Was there anybody that did that? I think you told me there was.
There was.
Was there?
There have been people, and there were people that were upset that it's like, hey, I don't have power.
Yeah.
I didn't have power for several days. I can't really do any premieres right now. And there were people upset with me for that. While I'm sitting in my car trying to charge my shit, using my cell phone as a hotspot, just like
Yeah,
sitting in my car because it was warm.
that happens. Us this week as well. I want to point out we actually had a premiere set up on Wednesday at a site, and I got a message from the site saying, hey, this probably not going to happen for a few days because there's currently a war going on here. I hope you understand. I was like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Read the room, people. Read the room.
And the client was, and thankfully the client was the same way. He was like, oh, there's a war going on? Totally cool. I totally understand. There's no
Bombs
issue.
kind of take precedent over, getting my shit premiered.
But some people don't think that way, which is amazing. So, okay, so let's talk about some more about insincere networking before we go on to nice or correct ways of doing networking. So, okay, this is something that I've noticed is that people will sometimes try to gift their way into connecting with people. I don't know if you've experienced this.
Oh,
but
a lot.
You have?
Bands try to send me shit all the time.
Okay, can you go over this just for a minute here? I got my own thoughts, but I want to hear yours since you've actually had it happen. I wasn't sure if you had.
So I have guilt issues. So me taking any kind of gifts is a pain, and you know this.
And
me taking any kind of gifts, it's a pain in the ass for me to accept them.
Yeah.
And
I do want to point out I give Corey gifts quite frequently, at least once a month.
And I mean, even
he hates it.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. They make me super, I don't know. They're just, it weirds me out for some reason. I always feel like I owe somebody when they do it, but it creates this unfair obligation. And that's why I always turn them down, because I don't ever want to be indebted to somebody like, oh, we sent you a CD and a shirt and now you're not going to write about us. You're just trying to take advantage of us.
Yep.
And I never, ever want to give that impression. So I rarely take anything. There have been a couple of times where I've, accepted band merch, but I already knew the people. We had formed as, similar, we had formed a kind of a relationship, a friendship. They even taught me some swear words in their native language, which was cool.
Nice. That's always good.
But for the most part, if it's a band that I don't regularly work with, I won't take it because it creates a sense of obligation that is unfair.
I agree 100%. Now I want to point out again, I do this quite a bit with you, but I don't do it out of the sense of trying to get you to do anything. You'll notice.
Yeah, because you never asked me to do anything.
I haven't. Yeah, I never have. You're just waiting for the day probably when I drop some big bomb on you or something like that.
Corey, I secretly need a kidney. Time to cash in.
I need a heart transplant. Give me your heart right now. And you're gonna be like,
you don't even know your blood type.
huh?
We could be not a match. You don't even know your blood type.
But if we were, and I asked you for a heart transplant, I'm going to totally use all the times I've done everything for you, just completely.
Now you need to die for me.
Yeah. Okay. So the gift. So okay, but there can be times too when it's legit. So just for the networking.
There are times when it's legit, but for me, it's when I've built up an ongoing relationship with the person, and usually they have to badger me into it.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like, for example, if you actually had premiered a band or you did a write-up for them and they offered to send you something, I think that would be legit versus them sending you something first. Would you not?
Yeah. And even then though, I still say no, because then like, what if their next single, I can't premiere it, but we sent you a shirt.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. Cause Corey's been offered stuff just from our clients and she won't even.
I'll just buy it.
She's one of the few people to do that. Okay, so we got the gifts. But again, I think that sometimes, like if you already have an established relationship with the person, it is okay to send the person a gift.
Yes.
Me,
yes.
frequently send clients gifts, I want to point out.
Yes. And where was I going? Oh yeah. The other thing, I've had people try to bribe me too.
In what way?
Like just straight up, how much is it going to cost to get my band featured on Metal Injection? I have literally had at least 3 people try to bribe me.
Okay.
And my response is if any publication is charging you like that, then in my opinion, it's not a very ethical way to run things. I know that there are certain publications that it's all pay to play.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, that's not super ethical.
I agree.
And so I'm not, and that's not Metal Injection's way of doing things. So like hell, I'm going to do that.
100%. Yeah. If you're trying to bribe your way into a premiere, don't fucking do it. Don't do that with a review. That's just, no, don't fucking do that. Okay. So next thing of networking. So, okay. So let's say, I'm just trying to think if there's any bad ways I want to go over before we go into the good ways. Let me ask you first. Can you think of anything else that's a bad way to network that you've personally experienced?
I mean, we've covered all the biggest ones for me. It's like the insincerity, the over-the-top flattery, the like, I don't know, just the inconsistent, like, oh, you wrote about this and maybe you'll like this, and they're 2 completely unrelated things. So those are all like the big ones. But when it comes to networking, I think people, to avoid the bad kind of networking, just check your motivations.
100%.
Yeah, and that's what it all boils down to.
I want to add before we move on to the good part. One key way that you can tell if someone's being insincere with their networking is that they will avoid you afterwards, and they'll just kind of like just cut any communication, not follow up. They'll pretend to be your friend, and then the second whatever you want is done, it's just they're ghosted. They're gone. There's no more.
I've had that happen a lot.
Yep.
There are a lot of people that will only talk to me when they want something.
Yep.
There have been multiple times where I was trying to learn things in the industry, and I've reached out to people that have networked with me, like, hey, can you answer some questions for me? And then they just ghost me.
Yeah. Let's go over that for a brief second here, and without naming any names, obviously.
I have not named a single name, so
I'm just saying I'm not naming any. I'm
not naming any names either.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. The big mouth.
They will out themselves.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you realize I was not going to say anything. No, not at all. So Corey has in the past. Okay, let's just kind of explain this here. So Corey in the past, when she was trying to learn some stuff, would frequently reach out to people. And because she's a Metal Injection person, they would only talk to her whenever they were asking for a premiere or for a review or whatever the heck it is, right? Mm-hmm. So can you kind of explain the effect that kind of has on the person on the receiving end of that? Because since you've experienced it.
Honestly, it's so scummy.
It is.
It's so scummy. And like, it just happened so much until like the past 4 months.
Yep.
It was very frequent, and it just, it makes you think that this industry is just full of shit and there's nothing good about any of it. Granted, I was proven wrong. There are a lot of good people in this industry willing to help, but
Yep.
unfortunately, there's also there's a lot of bad people in this industry that only care about themselves.
Yep.
And you can actually usually spot those people by how they promote.
Yep.
Are they talking about them and their results, or are they talking about their clients and their results?
This
Are they
is a
talking about their own accomplishments, or are they talking about their clients' accomplishments, granted with their help? There's
Yep.
a big difference in how they conduct themselves. So if you're unsure if somebody's doing like the false flattery or any of that kind of stuff, go look at their feed and how they're talking about their accomplishments. Is it in the context of, look at me, look what I did, or go look at this awesome thing my client just accomplished?
Yep.
There's a massive difference.
I agree 100%. There are quite a few people that we both know or have known, that will only talk about themselves and how good their company is doing and how good this is doing only. Like we both do talk about, I brag about C Squared, but I also talk about how good.
But you talk about it in the context of your clients and the context of all of us as a group. So like when you're talking about the success of C Squared, you're not saying, look at how great I'm doing and my company's doing. It's look at how great we're doing.
Yep.
Look at how much we're doing for our clients. Look at these results for our clients. There's a difference.
Is that a black hole behind you, by the way? I see this big hole right behind your head.
It is a black hole behind me.
Okay. It distracted me for a brief
Technically,
second.
it's an eye.
Is it an eye? Oh, it is an eye. Okay.
It's a space eye.
So, okay, back to what we were talking about there. So, yes, for us, I know I always mention you. I always mention Holly. I always mention Guy. I always mention Aaliyah. I never.
And you always mention Lindsay.
I do always mention Lindsay 99.9% of the time because I think I didn't want to like overdo it with her. But
you overdo it with everything, Curtis. That's your style.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, because I'm kind of realizing that some of the stuff we're saying I do, but I don't do it in that manner. Like, is an instance.
There's a difference. You can read the difference.
Yeah.
Of look at how cool I am because I'm working with XYZ name. Not look what I accomplished or look what they accomplished with my help or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I posted the Sarah brags a couple times about me, but other than that, it's usually just that's it. I mean, who doesn't want to post a Sarah brag? I mean, come on.
Me. I hate bragging though. I barely post. I don't post about myself. It's just my.
When Sarah about the video, I remember you posting. Sarah said thank you to me. I remember you posting that. That's
oh yeah, that was a moment.
Yeah. I think that's the one time you did it. I'm just saying, Sarah is a legit brag, I think. Okay, let's talk about proper networking. Unless you had anything more to say about the instance here.
No, I'm good on my on the. I think people can understand when it's insincere. Just listen to your gut, and if you're one of those people reaching out, trying to network with people, just check your motivations. Are you going into this solely to get something out of the other person, or do you actually plan on reciprocating?
100%. So just before we move on, one last thing I do want to say about it is Corey is also, she's going to deny this, but she's actually a master networker. So if you ever want to see how someone should network, you should like look at what she does, because she does it with sincerity and she does it with purpose at the same time. And she's not a dick about it. And she's gone pretty darn far in 3 months just by her networking ability, I think.
I think the reason why I'm successful is I don't expect anything of anybody.
Exactly.
That's honestly probably the best effect of people ghosting me.
Yep.
The way that they have is that I no longer expect anybody to help me with anything. So any kind of relationships that I form with people, it's zero expectation that they do anything for me. And they're all people I genuinely want to work with, regardless of if I get a personal benefit out of it.
One last thing before we go to the good thing, I do want to also point out Corey will even refuse to ask me for things, and I have to offer to help her, and she still refuses it.
I do that with everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty of people that it's like, nope, I'm not asking them for that, even though I know full well I could ask them for whatever thing it is we're talking about. I won't do it because it's just there's a line between networking and using. And
You're
I
probably like,
refuse, I refuse to be one of those people who is constantly ask, 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 ask.
you're probably like Machiavelli, or you're just like hiding there and you're just waiting to like spring something on everybody, aren't you? I knew it. I knew it.
I just manipulate you all into offering.
That's probably what it is.
I make you think it's your idea.
Oh, you are. That's what it is.
It's inception, networkception,
yeah.
In working. I don't know.
But in yes, you are a good networker, I think. So let's go on to the next part, which is how to network. So since we just bragged about how good of I bragged about how good of a networker you are, we're going to start with you. So how did you network yourself into being where you are today in less than 3 months?
I listened to you.
Well, okay. Let's go a little bit further than that, than just you listen to me.
Well, honestly, let's just take our relationship as an example.
Sure.
I went into it doing something for you.
You did. 100%.
So, and it was something I didn't have to do. And it was something that I don't think most people would have done. And it just became, it just became a thing.
Yep.
But for those that don't know, I, premiered one of Curtis's songs, their clients' songs, didn't tell him I was doing it. And one of the artists featured in the song made a comment on Instagram like, oh, I wish they had included my new project, not my old project. And so I went in and I included the new project in the article, sent it to Curtis because I didn't feel it was right to reach out to his client personally. And so I went to Curtis, was like, hey, here, I made the change that they asked for on Instagram. And that I went into the relationship offering some sort of value, even though it was very tiny value. It was something.
Yep. And what else did you do? Because you did a little bit more than that.
Well, we covered it earlier, is I let you know what I was capable of, the skills that I have.
Yep.
And I tried to make it a conversation of, well, actually, that's all it was just a conversation like, hey, this is what I do. And it just kind of built from there. I mean.
Yep. She kept talking, in other words, is what I'm saying.
And I didn't ask for shit.
You did not ask for shit. And then you asked me another question. I think it was about Antiqua, if I'm not mistaken. And then
I asked you when their album was coming out.
Yep. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what it was. I knew you were working with Lindsay and that Antiqua was a thing. And then, I asked when their album was coming out.
Yep. And she kept the conversation going. And then she dropped in little subtle things that she does. Just like subtle, wasn't like name dropping or anything like that. Mentioned Tequila, you mentioned a couple other things. And I thought this girl.
The reason I was bringing that up wasn't necessarily like to get anything from you either. It was just like, this is what I do.
Yep.
Maybe you will find these facts interesting.
Exactly. But I mean, you did it I'm just saying, you did it in such a way that it didn't sound like it was arrogant or anything like that. You just brought up, I have this band, Kievo, blah, blah, blah. That was all you basically said. And then I went and looked. And then that got me curious. And then I think I retweeted or something like that. And then you said thank you and then just kept going. And you did not ask me for shit, I don't think, at all.
No, I actually fought you on some things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did thank you for retweeting a Kievel because that meant a lot. Even though it was something small, it was like not something anybody else had done.
Yep. So, okay, so you kept talking. So now, then after that, so then we kind of like once we started working together, you did do almost anything I asked you to do. I will admit that, but I don't think that's the entirety of why you're doing well. You're like, really? I don't think that's it.
That might be it, honestly. I just do whatever I'm asked to do.
She's not really good. She's just good at just being told what to do. That's all. She's not.
Corey, can you? Yup.
Yeah.
That is the secret to my success. Corey, can you do this thing? Yes, I can. Even if I don't know what I'm doing. Yep, sure. Why not? I'll Google it.
Well, you know what? Actually, in a way, that probably is part of the secret, because that's why Guy and Holly are working with us. In actual fact, that's really
because the only. They both do the same thing.
Yeah, they basically do that. So maybe the very first good networking tip is like, if you're asked to do something or if someone asks you for help, just say yes. If you're a
fan of Letterkenny, which I know you probably think this show is the bane of your existence now that we've brought it up several times.
Yeah.
if a friend asks you for help, you help them.
Yep.
And if you're networking, if somebody you're trying to network with asks you for help, you help them. It
Yep.
can't be one-sided.
100%. So now, okay, so we got about 10 minutes left. So we got to bring this back home here. So now, how extreme should you be going? Because, okay, so you were talking earlier about bringing value to people.
Mhm.
So how much value should you bring without being compensated, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or without there, because some people will just take advantage of you. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and then they'll just expect more. We both know people that do this, have done this to us in the past. I don't think we currently have anybody doing that, but they'll want. Actually, but they want, and then they don't want to do anything in return ever. So at what point is the relationship too one-sided, if you know what I mean?
When you're no longer comfortable with it.
Okay, fair enough.
If you're starting to get angry about how one-sided it is, it's too one-sided. If you're starting to get resentful about how one-sided it is, it's too one-sided.
Okay, cool. I can have that. Okay, so like, let's say if I wanted to network with someone, usually what I'll do, like if I want to meet someone, like a lot of the times like half the people that I've met, I've just done stuff for as the very first thing. I don't know, like I kind of do the same thing. That was kind of how I met Gaia. That was how I met Harry Knox, how I met Gary from Nuclear Winter, Lyle from MMA. There's a lot of people, like I'll just help them as the very first thing, just offer it. So, okay, so let's say you, Corey, and we decided to help someone. At what point would you realize that the relationship was too one-sided if we did that? Because we do that a lot as well. We do that with people.
The threshold is going to be different for everybody. Like, let's take a Kievel, for example. I help them a lot, but I also see them busting their asses to succeed as well. So the threshold for them is a lot higher because their effort is extremely high. It's up there. It's not me doing all the work to make them famous. It's them and me, like, all busting our asses to succeed. So if I see somebody who's super lazy, then the threshold is going to be a lot lower.
I agree.
So yeah, it's when you start to get resentful.
Yeah, because I know I've done that for bands before. It'll be like, okay, so I see you need some help. You need a press release. They'll say yes, I'm happy to do it, and then all of a sudden they start coming to you with more requests and not wanting. And it's like, at first, okay, fine, I can help them with this, but then where it becomes where they start getting demanding, that's when for me
exactly. Or like, say you do a press release and you send them the links of people who posted that press release, but then they don't share it. Or if you say, hey, if you guys really want to be successful, you need to start posting more to social media, and then they don't do it. Even though that's not a direct slight against you, the lack of effort on their part is making the relationship too one-sided.
I agree 100%. And then I want to ask you a question. So how do you pick? I know how I pick who you want to help in order to network with. How do you decide? I know how I do. I want to hear yours.
For networking, who do I pick? Oh, geez.
Well, it's not really even networking. Well, I mean, it is kind of networking, because when you look at who you want to help, that is kind of
so who I want to help.
Yeah.
I chose a Kievel because I really loved their music. I like, as soon as I heard what they were doing, I was blown away. But before I ever offered any help, like, I wrote about them in an underground roundup, and I sent it to them. They very quickly thanked me. They very quickly shared it. They shared it a month later again. So they were always very grateful before I ever offered them anything. The little things that I did, they were very grateful. So because they were grateful, I covered their next video. And because they were grateful that time, I covered their next video. And they're very, very similar to how I am, in that all of the help that I offered them, they've refused it.
That's a key point.
They refused it. It was like pulling teeth to get them to let me help them back in the beginning, because their personality is very similar. We can't offer you anything. And it took months of, I don't care what you can offer me, just let me freaking help you.
Mhm.
Before they finally did. Now they have no problem asking me for stuff, but
Yeah.
well, no, they do. They do. They still have a problem asking me for stuff, but
Key point though is not wanting, like when if someone rejects it, I think that's always a good sign.
yes.
I actually agree with you on that. I mean, there's a difference though, because sometimes people are willing to be helped if they feel that the person's being sincere.
Mhm.
But I think you're right. One key thing is like if the person objects to receiving the help at first, I think there's a good sign. That's a really good sign they're not going to try to take advantage of you. I agree with you.
Exactly. And because of that, I've gone completely ham helping
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. That's kind of like what I do with you. So I don't know if this is like a weird manipulative technique you got going here where it's just like
It's reverse psychology. No, 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 I don't want your help.
Yeah, exactly. No, Corey didn't really do that. She's just pretty good about not what's the right word? Not overextending the requests, I think is what is, but I do the same thing. I almost never ask for anything. So, okay. So last point in networking here that I do want to bring up is you have to go into it with not, how do I want to put this? Again, we kind of brought this up before, but you want to make sure you're not doing it just to benefit your own self. I think that's
Exactly.
the key thing. Can you just go over that briefly and then I want to do it?
Yeah, so it goes back to checking your motivations. Why are you messaging this person? And there will be times you cannot benefit the other person because the other person already has everything that they need. I mean, there's somebody that we've networked with, you know exactly who I'm talking about, that he does help me quite a bit. He's always there to answer my questions. There's literally not shit one I can do for him. But at the same time, I always make sure he knows if there is ever a time where I can help him, just ask me and I will be there. So making sure that that is clear to whoever you're working with, if it's somebody that's, you know, a much higher tier or however you want to word that, who's been in the industry much longer, that if there ever is something that comes up, they can count on you. And then you better freaking deliver when something does come up that you can help with.
That's key as well.
You
like
best deliver.
Yeah. If you make an agreement that you're going to do something, or you tell someone you'll do something for them in the future based on the help, that is a good rant. I just want to go off here. I've had this many times where someone has asked me for a favor. I've done it and they have not delivered on what they've asked. Good example is about 4, 5, 6 years ago when I was after I'd been doing PR for like a year or two, someone asked me, there were a journalist that I knew asked me to help them get their PR company established and to help them like with contacts, like how to find contacts, all that type of thing. Mm-hmm. I did everything I was asked. And he said in exchange, he was going to help me get some premieres at this site over the next 2 years. There wasn't a value amount or anything like that. But after I helped him, he ghosted me and never, ever once fucking helped. Not once. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do something like that, you have to make sure that you always deliver back in return, because as far as I'm concerned, guys blacklisted in my books, I don't want anything to fucking do with them. And
I've had that happen where I premiered a certain a band that they were really trying to push. I premiered everything that band did, or nearly everything that band did.
Yep.
And when it came time to ask that person, hey, can you give me some industry advice on XYZ topic? They never responded.
Yep. And I want to point out too that when once C Squared gets really big, me and Corey are going to be like, when they try to work for us, we're going to be like,
I'm going to send them that GIF from Mean Girls of Gretchen screaming, "You can't sit with us."
Yep. Just because one thing everybody has to remember too is if you ghost someone and if you end up being a dick to them and they end up being in a position later where you want to work with them, they're going to remember it and they're not going to work with you. And not to be mean and vindictive, but me and Corey have a small list that we're thinking with.
Well, honestly, it's a trust thing.
Yep.
I don't trust that person anymore. It's not even personal. I don't trust them in a business sense anymore.
Yep. Agreed. So anything else we want to cover with networking?
I think that is just don't be a douche. All right. It's my one rule. Just don't be a douche. It requires so much more energy to be a douche than it does to not be a douche. So be lazy and don't be a douche.
And a douche is defined as someone that is networking only for their own benefit, trying to use you, planning on not doing anything for you in return, all one-sided. There's no backwards exchange there from them to you for what you've done for them. Right.
Mhm. Exactly.
Cool. Do you have any final words, Corey? I think we had a new outro. What was the new outro?
I think we should save that outro for something else.
Okay.
Because people seem to like the one that we do now.
Okay. Well, party on, Corey.
Party on, Curtis.